Today is Saturday, August 28th. This is a video survey of Selling Vessel Snow Goose for a paint job that was performed roughly 6 months ago. And there were some signs of deterioration of the paint, some areas that are flaking off, and some that are just not, shows the areas that are not even application was applied. You can see right there that area that was not a smooth area where paint was properly applied. You notice my two fingers. There's a dark area and light area that represents where different layers and different thicknesses of paint were. This line represents a complete streak where there's no paint. In this area here, it shows areas that are where paint was rolled on and applied it in different thicknesses. Some areas were almost completely missed. That's just me just checking some areas. It's like no paint was applied there, or it's just thinning and coming off. Using my finger, just a fingernail rather than a scraper, just to determine the thickness of the paint. Very thin paint there. You can see the different variations of color. Here is where roughly a 2" by 1" chunk of paint is just completely missing, and the paint is, any layers of paint are completely missing. See that variations of paint? That just shows where it's applied in different thicknesses and possibly not a very dry application. Just see the variations in colors there. Something's going on with that paint. Just checking the entire boat, me checking the keel. There's some barnacle worms. They come every 2, 3, 4 weeks. There's the variations in paint again. You can see the light and dark colors. That's just representation of different applications or different thicknesses of the paint. There may be one coat in one area and 2 coats in another. You see these areas right here that represent darkness and light. I can't tell you what's going on, but it almost appears that the paint was not applied properly, or paint is thinning, and possibly the hole was not cleaned properly, therefore not allowing the paint to adhere to it. More variations of paint that was not properly applied. More streaks. Different variations of paint thicknesses. There's more streaks where the paint was just not applied in the same thickness. Different levels, different thicknesses of coatings of paint. And you see where my fingers there just represent different variations of paint. That's why I'm doing it in like the peace sign. And nothing in this picture. More streaks. Variations of paint thicknesses, 1 layer versus 2. There's another streak of paint where it completely missed. A chunk of paint missing out, so any layers of paint are no longer adhering. More areas where paint is just not adhering to the hull. Another chunk of paint completely missing. Variations of paint thicknesses. Kind of hard to tell from that picture what I'm trying to represent. More variations of paint thicknesses. And you can see the different colors of paint with my fingers representing the darkness and the lightness. Represents paint was not evenly applied. More streaks. More variations of color thicknesses here. Or paint thickness, not color thicknesses. Here's another chunk. I believe this is on the starboard side aft. Variations of paint thicknesses. Representation of the same thing, paint thicknesses. This is port side midship. Representation where a roller was completely missed one area. There's the same chunk, just a little closer. Paint variation thickness. Right, that concludes my presentation and my opinion on the paint that is on the bottom of Sailing Vessel Snow Goose. Charles Painter.